There's betrayal. And then there's betrayal that burns your whole future down. I was Jessica. Team player. First one in, last one out. Birthday cards for coworkers. Handmade spreadsheets. Volunteered to stay late even when no one asked. The kind of employee managers say they wish they could clone. I wasn't flashy. I wasn't political. I just did the work. And I trusted the system to notice. Then there was Brad. Brad was loud. Brad was charming. Brad had a talent for repeating your ideas just loud enough to make people think they were his. At first, I didn't mind. There's room for everyone, right? We were part of the same client team, me, Brad, and 2 others. We worked on a massive corporate rebranding project. Late nights. Stress. Constant tweaks. I carried the weight. Everyone knew it. Even Brad. Especially Brad. Then the promotion was announced. 1 spot. 1 bump in salary. 1 project lead title. I wasn't cocky. But I knew I deserved it. And Brad knew too. That's why he struck first. A week before final evaluations, Brad filed a concern with HR. Anonymous, of course. Said I was hard to work with, dismissive of team contributions, overstepping responsibilities. He backed it up with carefully cropped emails. Out of context Slack messages. Subtle poison. And because management was gutless and HR was lazy, they didn't investigate properly. They didn't ask me. They just called me into a small beige room, read from a piece of paper, and fired me. No warning. No appeal. No severance. After 6 years. 6 years of loyalty, of overtime, of missed birthdays and canceled vacations. Gone. I didn't beg. Didn't cry. Didn't even flinch. I signed the papers. Cleaned out my desk. Walked to my car. And sat there, hands clenched on the steering wheel, until the rage burned hotter than the humiliation. I wasn't going to crawl away. I wasn't going to be some cautionary tale about trusting the wrong people. I was going to make sure Brad never did this to anyone again. And I was going to make sure he never saw it coming. First step, information. I knew Brad. I knew his habits. His tells. His mistakes. He liked shortcuts. He liked looking good more than being good. And most of all, he liked leaving digital footprints he thought no one would find. I started building my case. From home. Quietly. Carefully. I had copies of every project file, with metadata showing I was the author. I had Slack logs where Brad took credit for my work, sometimes minutes after I posted it. I had emails forwarded to my personal account, requests, praises, approvals with my name all over them. It was all legal. All mine. And Brad thought he won. Meanwhile, I started networking. Not at bars or awkward mixers. Online. I reached out to former clients. Former vendors. Former coworkers. Everyone who'd ever said, "If you ever leave, call me." I called. And I learned things. Bad things. Things Brad had buried under charm and beer pong. There were whispers about missing invoices. Inflated billing hours. Projects that went mysteriously over budget, but always looked shiny at the surface. Because Brad was good at shiny. And terrible at clean. I documented everything. Built timelines. Screenshotted inconsistencies. Cross-referenced contract deliverables. I didn't just want revenge. I wanted unarguable proof. Proof that even the laziest HR department couldn't ignore. Proof that would stick to Brad like a second skin. Step 2, exposure. I didn't send an anonymous tip. I didn't write an angry Facebook post. I built a package. Professional. Precise. Unemotional. Inside, a detailed report outlining discrepancies in Brad's billing and project records. Email evidence showing him submitting my work as his own. Testimonies from 2 former clients, both furious once they realized they'd been overbilled. A cover letter written in neutral, clinical language. I wasn't accusing. I was presenting facts. I sent it to HR at his company, their compliance officer, their largest client's legal department, and a well-known industry watchdog group that specializes in ethical violations, not all at once. Strategically. Weeks apart. A slow drip. So just when he thought he'd contained one fire, another spark would hit. The fallout was delicious. First, quiet meetings behind closed doors. Then Caleb being reassigned from client-facing roles. Then whispers. Then louder whispers. Then rumors that the client, the biggest account Brad had bragged about, was threatening to pull their contract unless certain personnel were removed. Brad's boss, a woman named Meredith, had a reputation for being ice-cold when her bottom line was threatened. And I made sure she had every reason to believe Brad wasn't just a PR liability, he was a financial one. The day Brad was fired wasn't public. There were no dramatic scenes. No screaming matches. Just a quiet removal from the company directory. A deactivated LinkedIn page. An awkward life update post a month later about seeking new opportunities. Translation: blacklisted. But I wasn't done yet. Because Brad hadn't just cost me a job. He had cost me my reputation. And I wasn't leaving anything to chance. Step 3. Reputation collapse. Getting Brad fired was satisfying. But I wanted a longer echo. I wanted the people who considered hiring him next to think twice. And luckily, Brad couldn't resist trying to stay in the game. A few months later, I saw it. A shiny new LinkedIn profile. Buzzwords everywhere. Strategic consultant, results-oriented leader, proven success across diverse markets. Grouse. Worse, he landed a few freelance gigs. Small companies. Startups that couldn't afford to dig too deep. He was rebuilding. Slowly. Clumsily. And that's when I made my next move. I created an online persona. Professional looking. Industry adjacent. A business owner looking for marketing consulting. Reached out to Brad through a fake company email. Set up an interview over Zoom. He showed up in a 2-type blazer and that same oily grin. Tried to impress me with buzzwords. And I recorded everything. Not illegally. Legally. Because he bragged. He bragged about streamlining deliverables, the same ones he'd falsified. He joked about managing client expectations, code for lying. He even, God bless him, mentioned turning over a new leaf after a messy misunderstanding with a former employer. A misunderstanding. Right. I clipped the video. Saved the emails. Built a new dossier, smaller, but sharper. And the next time Brad applied for a real position at a reputable firm. The hiring manager, a connection I'd quietly made at a networking event, got an anonymous package. Contents: video highlights, email chains, a polite note suggesting due diligence. Brad didn't get the job. Didn't even get a second interview. Word started to spread. Quietly. Efficiently. Brad wasn't just unlucky. Brad was toxic. Brad tried to pivot. Started a podcast about resilience and reinventing yourself. Shoot. It had 6 listeners. 3 episodes in, he posted a video sobbing about haters and how people never let you grow from your mistakes. I didn't comment. Didn't share. Didn't laugh. I just saved the video. Evidence of what happens when a man builds his career on the backs of people he underestimates. In the end, he faded. No big scandal. No headlines. Just slow, creeping irrelevance. The worst punishment for someone like Brad. He didn't even know who killed his career. It wasn't a scandal. It wasn't revenge porn. It wasn't some angry Reddit exposé. It was precision. 1,000 paper cuts. Silent. Steady. Lethal. Meanwhile, I rebuilt. Quietly. Patiently. I took freelance gigs. Consulted for startups. Built a reputation not just as a good worker, but a good leader. People trusted me. Because when you don't need credit, when you don't steal spotlights, when you just do the damn work, real people notice. It's funny. Sometimes, people still mention Brad in passing. Remember that guy who used to work here? Whatever happened to him? He had so much potential, and I smile politely. Shrug. Change the subject? Because Brad isn't worth stories anymore. Brad isn't worth outrage. Brad isn't even worth memory. And me? I learned. Not just how to spot snakes earlier. Not just how to protect my work better. But how to protect my peace. How to rebuild smarter. Stronger. Without carrying other people's debt weight. Brad taught me that. Not by being a villain, but by being small. By showing me that people